The actual product, I would say, is like blockchain, like the entire architecture from the ground up of blockchains, whether that's an L1, L2. Now we even have L3s, which, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago that was like a new term that got dropped, and everybody was like, "Oh, we got bored of L2s. Now we got L3s. We're gonna have L4s and L5s." But I see like some of that narrative kind of dropped away, but there are actually ecosystems that are popping up that are legitimately building full L3 ecosystems as well. Like, have you seen a lot of interest in that area? Is there like certain like niche solutions where it actually makes sense? What's happened with that entire part of scaling? Yo, what's up, Tyler? How you doing today?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Welcome to the show. Excited to have you here. I think we've only done one episode so far with internal team members talking about some AI agents. So I'm really excited to have you on the show and dig into what you do here at Anchor and Asphere. So I'm going to let you do your full intro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into Web3, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. And first off, appreciate you having me on. Honored to be the second internal guest of the show. But yeah, I'm Tyler. I've been in Web3 formally since 2017, 2018, working in it. Was previously in academia and then started going to hackathons, like crypto meetup events, enjoyed kind of the hype of the bull run 2017, got more involved. And yeah, at that point, fell down the rabbit hole like everyone does at one point or another. Start reading white papers, etc. That was like the ICO craze going around. So kind of towards the tail end of that year, co-founded a Web3 startup that was focused on real estate data and a protocol for creating a standard within the US for residential and commercial properties. So you can kind of think of what's the Carfax, the full life history of your car, everyone that's worked on it, et cetera, and kind of applying that to properties and real estate.
Carfax of real estate? That's
Yeah.
actually really
It's
sweet.
pretty cool. And like I still think a valid concept and use cases in the US at least. We have like very disparate, like broken what's called MLS systems. There's like over 800 of them, and they're all only available to registered real estate agents. And each one only gets access to their specific location. So there's gated paid walls at each one. So like, hey, that's a pretty ideal scenario. And
That seems
in
very
case
inefficient.
yeah, and there's a lot of money for that data to keep it inefficient and walled. So we're using ways to incentivize to bring data custody back to the actual owners of the property instead of all of these Web2 companies in the middle that were taking advantage and profiting off of it. So a very interesting use case, and kind of got my feet wet from a product standpoint from that side, which kind of segues into what I do at Anchor, which is a product lead for our Rollup-as-a-Service or scaling solutions broadly. So whether it's launching an L2, L3, or also like app chains, different sovereign chains, Cosmos SDK chains, as well as our Bitcoin secured infra products. So different support or building tools and for anyone that's looking to build on Bitcoin. But yeah, kind of my background.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a pretty broad scope of things that you manage. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question that you may not like, and this is something that's kind of bothered me since I started here. Is what's with the name Ross, right? Like that's specifically referring to rollups, and this product or this product line, I should say, doesn't specifically just work with rollups. It's actually a much broader offering than that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It kind of got coined and termed, and now it's like many things in Web3, just a blanket statement
Just a
that
moniker.
some certain degree of like what even is a roll up gets, just like what's a
There's
wallet,
been
what's an
some heated
account, what's an
discussions.
identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the actual product, I would say, is like blockchain, like the entire architecture from the ground up of blockchains, whether that's an L1, L2. Now we even have L3s, which, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago that was like a new term that got dropped, and everybody was like, "Oh, we got bored of L2s. Now we got L3s, and we're gonna have L4s and L5s." But I see like some of that narrative kind of dropped away, but there are actually ecosystems that are popping up that are legitimately building full L3 ecosystems as well. Like, have you seen a lot of interest in that area? Is there like certain like niche solutions where it actually makes sense? What's happened with that entire part of scaling?
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back first, like, yeah, scaling as a broader solutions kind of envelop like all of that. So L2s, L3s, app chain, and then our rollup as a service should serve those, L2s and L3s specifically that I can get into it just at a high level. A rollup, even at that point, is a scaling solution that compiles or rolls up transactions off chain into a single piece of data and relays it back to the main network or the parent network, typically an L1. But in the case of an L3, it could be back to an L2. And I think it has evolved that we've seen so many successful or big name L2s launch, like the bases of the world, et cetera, that there's a whole ecosystem or environment of building happening there, or that we want even further expansion or ownership of economics, of block space, of kind of customization that comes with a roll up in and of itself, whether it be having your own custom gas token or just other customizations that you want specifically. Say you're an app and you hit scale, and now you don't want to rely on that parent chain, kind of basing the behaviors that you want to enable for your user base and your community. And we support L3s. We actually built, we'll get into kind of our Asphere no-code deployer, but we actually built a white label no-code deployer for Frax and enabling L3s to launch on top of Fractal, which is an L2 on top of OP stack. So definitely interesting times with people wanting to own their block space and have more control over their chain, which leads to other things that people are now getting to solve, like interoperability for things that result of this, such as fragmentation.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Very recently, I started seeing some not I wouldn't say heated conversations, but some really intense conversations around ag layer, and really building like a cross chain solution for OP chains. Which, I mean, I've seen like two sides of the conversation. Whereas OP has built this tech stack for people to be able to launch and deploy, but they usually take a little cut. I want to say 15%. But the way Polygon has moved with ag layer, it kind of helps you build an OP stack chain and connect it to multiple ecosystems and kind of side like go around working directly through OP and having to give away a piece of your potential revenue. Have you seen that? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I'm not as deep in the scaling game as you are, so I'm just curious if that's something that you've had your thumb on.
Yeah, I think there's a big focus on interoperability for a number of reasons, not just data, but liquidity, of course, as well. And I think that's why AgLayer has gotten the attention that it has, is kind of a pivot and a shift for that interop and liquidity layer to support and connect sovereign chains, especially L1s, for example, that may need to bootstrap liquidity and security as well. And OP themselves, have really focused on super chains and their standard configuration. So really kind of having that, Ethereum as the gas token. And for now, you can still have alt-DA, a data availability layer, but with that standard configuration, you inherit a lot of benefits across the OP ecosystem and interop amongst them, which teams are excited about to gain those benefits. And there's some big names that have launched on top of OP that are super chains, so there's definitely value there. So it is interesting how the end of last year or even the middle was like big boom of rollups, and now we're seeing, okay, now the focus has shifted to how do we connect all these things that value has been built on top of.
Interesting. I know Agler's been playing a big part of that. I remember when I first heard about Polygon, I thought it was an L2 back in like 2019 when I first heard about it and started talking about it, and I realized they weren't an L2 then, or they didn't have the L2 stack for people to like build out chains, which is what I thought the initial idea was. And we've come a long way since then. Now, obviously, you do have, you know, Polygon architecture, you got OP, you got Arbitrum, you have a lot of different options, ZK Sync, to use to spin up based on what your focus is, where your value prop is, and if you're more focused on security, if you're more focused on scalability. So in your, I mean, I would actually love to go through the no-code deployer as well and kind of get your thoughts on the different parts of the stack and the different options you have, because a lot of people, like I said, we were talking about L2s and then L3s and L4s, and it's kind of consolidated now. A lot of those chains that people were talking about don't exist anymore or don't really get as much traffic. And the newer solutions are really starting to pick up steam and make it a focus to connect with each other and stop fragmenting liquidity so much and really work with each other as opposed to competing against each other. So with these different stacks that at least that we support, can you give me a little bit of a breakdown of what the different benefits they offer are and how you would go about choosing a stack based on something that you're trying to build?
Yeah, for sure. Let me share my screens here. So yeah, if you go to anchor.com, you can go down to our scaling solution services page and find out more about Rollup-as-a-Service, kind of some of the frameworks that we do support, as well as navigating to our no-code deployer, which happens to run on top of Anchor's enterprise-grade infra. So that comes with kind of the benefits of not only the technical lift of us deploying, but managing our the rollup with our global edge network. So it's just some of the stats, and I think we're close to 80 chains now for supported.
Yeah, I think we've
So
passed 80 chains now. We got to
yeah,
update.
so we need to update that. It's a good problem to have for sure. But if you go to kind of how it works, it kind of breaks down for those that may be unfamiliar with the different stack options. And here are some of the listed that you named that we do support, like Arbitrum Orbit, OP, ZK Stacks, so ZK Syncs, Fractal as well, as I mentioned, as well as different data availability layers as well. So that's really why teams go with, transaction data outside of just Ethereum, is that it really kind of packages it off chain and makes it available for verification. And with some of these alternatives like Avail, Eigen, Celestia, etc., enhances the speed and lowers the cost for that data. But to go kind of over to our no-code deployer, I'm already logged in here on one. So you go very
You got a lot of chains rolled up, dude.
Yeah, that's what happens when you do some self QA for your products, for sure.
You gotta eat your dog food, man.
Yeah. So we have some different stacks, Arbitrum, OP. We have both of these as labeled instant, meaning that you're able to deploy a rollup without talking to anyone on our team within about 15 minutes if you go through certain customization options. Through this, we also support Polygon CDK and ZK Stack. But once you do choose your stack, it kind of drops down into different network options here. So if you're starting out, a testnet, we do offer a free trial for 2 days. There's a requirement of holding some Anchor ETH, or you can start with a persistent testnet that comes with the bridge, Explorer, and starter RPC package. I'll select that one. And in terms of your question on different stacks and which is the right one for you, we do have detailed descriptions in our docs page, so how to get started and the different roll-up stacks here, so you can read about the options and kind of the benefits of all of those offerings and how they differ. So for example, Arbitrum And OP here are what are called optimistic rollups, and they do what they sound like. They're pretty optimistic, and that they assume every transaction is valid as the default, and then they actually have a verification mechanism that only checks disputed transactions. And on the other side of the coin, you have ZK rollups, so Polygon and ZK stack fall under those, where they use cryptographic proofs to validate all of the transactions off chain before posting them to the parent chain or the main chain.
Okay.
So kind
I
of
did
given that.
notice in the Arbitrum section, it also actually said that they support fraud proofs, which was interesting. I didn't know that was supported.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover too, so it's not as say a year ago as vanilla. For instance, even like OP, like the succinct team has like you can launch an OP succinct roll up that comes with some ZK flavor to your stack. So we've talked to some teams about supporting, that want that. So that's another thing that we do that I can highlight. Like this is our no code deployer for kind of standard configurations, but we offer a full suite of almost anything you can imagine to deploy. We can do manually on the customization side for different projects. But yeah, coming down, yeah, different data availability layers. We have Ethereum and AnyTrust as instant deployers, but you can pick any of the other alt DAs with little descriptions. And I didn't click on that, so let me go back. Here we go for chain ID. So it's throwing a number, test chain. And then here, gas token, we actually, through the automated flow, you're able to use a custom gas token as long as it currently exists on the parent chain. Since this is a testnet, we have it set for Haleski. That's actually a feature we're working on that you'll be able to choose between Sepolia or Hoodie for testnets in a bit, so people can look up for that, as well as some other manual deployment options, USDC, anchor tokens, or if you haven't created your token yet, you can select this option and we'll take care of it for you.
And so this one you've chosen the Arbitrum, right? So this is an Orbit chain that we'll be launching?
Yep.
Okay. Do all of the stacks allow you to use custom gas tokens, or is that an Arbitrum specific feature?
All of them do, except for OP stack. No longer does. They used to, but no longer.
Okay.
So they're really going for.
So if I have like my
any
own token, I've
configuration.
built my own. Gotcha. So just curious, so like if I've built my own dApp and like you said, it suddenly it starts scaling, a ton of people want to use it, and I want to move off of ETH mainnet, I can launch an Orbit chain and actually bring my personal token and use that as a native token for my chain when I deploy.
Exactly. And you get all the economic benefits of that token being involved in transaction fees. And you can earn from the sequencer fees as well as a roll up, which many teams are interested in.
Okay.
So then I get a kind of summary page of the selections that I've made. If you did select a manual option at any point, then it'll have kind of a button here to set up a meeting with us, and we actually get all the data of your selection. So we go in ahead of time and are able to start working on the manual deployment. But for automation ones, you can keep moving on the free trial testnet. This is the check I had for, so you do have to have 1 anchor ETH for the free trial, but if this is a persistent testnet, then it'll go through or a mainnet, and you can pay in either fiat with like a credit card or actually with crypto with either an Ethereum wallet. We accept USDC, USDT, and Anchor, or a Solana wallet with USDC and USDT. And once you go through that, if you have a custom gas token, then you'll just have to deposit a small amount so that we can use that to deploy the infrastructure. And then I can kind of show you once one is successfully deployed, you'll get all the details of it. the RPC endpoint that you can utilize. Automatically launches Block Explorer, bridge contracts, tracks the bridge, the block height, and you can manage your subscription packages on the billing page, or check out the integrations, the different integrations that we offer through our partners, whether it's you need a bridge or you want some decentralized sequencing with Espresso. So yeah, lots of teams that we work with.
Dude, that is awesome. How long did it take for you to get all of those partnerships locked in for this? Is this something that like people approach you about and like, hey, we want to be a part of your offering, or is there a lot more like outreach on your side for that?
I think at the start it was some outreach for sure on our end. Luckily at Anchor we have great relationships with many teams and projects within Web3 that kind of know our performance history and standards for tech and building out projects, not just in support from RPCs and index data, but on other things that we do, like staking as a service, liquid staking, all sorts of other fun things that some folks may not know that we support. But we do have this become a partner page where anyone can come that wants to be listed and submit. We'll review and go through our process before adding teams and kind of our diligence.
All right, easy enough. There's I know there's definitely been a lot of demand, especially like I go to conferences and I have a lot of conversations with teams, enterprise teams, and this has been a big request. Is like, a lot of people want to launch their own chains. Like we've seen a resurgence in that, but things have been changing so much in that landscape of what tech stacks are being offered. What I mean, DA layers are also a very important part of that. And some people are just focused on security. And I know ZK proofs. I guess I was talking to the Matter Labs team recently, and they mentioned a lot of stuff is just kind of branded ZK when it's not actually zero knowledge proofs. It's really just about providing those proofs, and that's a big part of the security layer. And I know a lot of enterprise teams and institutions, banks are looking into getting their own like private chains up and running for a lot of internal operations. So it's not just like a Web3 thing anymore. It's very much like Web2 institutions and larger companies. They have long-tailed projects. Like they don't work, we have customers that are like, hey, I need a chain up and running in the next like 2 weeks. Whereas when you get these bigger institutions, they're talking about 5, 10, 15-year plans. And so they're very focused on making sure everything is very secure, that it's reliable, that it's going to be, up 100% of the time. They've got billions of dollars that are moving on a lot of these rails. And so I see a lot of that interest coming in. And so before we jump into the next part, I'm just curious, have you seen a lot of that interest from like larger institutions and enterprise companies? I know we specifically have like security certifications to be able to provide services to those types of businesses. Just curious, like how high is the demand on that front?
Yeah, it's been growing immensely and has become a focus point of ours that relates to, and we've had ecosystems and kind of frameworks also reach out to us to kind of co-work together on these deals, as we do have that, our own enterprise grade global bare metal network, and paired with our SOC 2 compliance on Asphere for our scaling solutions, kind of makes us a perfect fit to support those types of projects. And that's kind of the beauty of what we do on the not only Rollup-as-a-Service, but scaling solution side, where you can come in as a startup or a brand new project and use the no-code deployer to launch, within 15 minutes, and you just inherit that global enterprise grade infra that comes with that we upkeep, we manage, we're upgrading, that we have the load balancers for, and everything else, the same that we're supplying to institutions and banks, and talking to governments about supporting. So that's one thing that is a little different too from other Rollup-as-a-Service providers, et cetera. But to kind of touch back on enterprise and institutional focus, we've had teams, come to us where they need privacy enablement and, at the RPC and infrastructure level that we're able to do. One thing that I can touch on a little bit that I'm super bullish and excited about is actually our work that we should announce in the near future with Solana and supporting their SPEs, so their Solana permission environments. So this is really their private SVM chains that are purposefully built for custom and like dedicated environments that utilize Solana's protocol, so you get all those benefits, but paired with it running on our enterprise grade infra and the privacy features that we can do on that side. So really excited about coming out with projects like that and supporting other ecosystems and stacks as well for these types of institutional clients.
Dude, that's some great alpha. It's something that I was hoping you'd talk about today, and I'm glad that you brought it up and I didn't have to. But that's really interesting. I actually had a few conversations about this recently at Token 2049 with some enterprise partners of ours, and there's really some interest in like what other stacks are you going to be bringing in. Solana has been a really hot topic. There's obviously a ton of DeFi volume happening there. There's a ton of degens trading. Meme coin resurgence happened almost solely on Solana over the past couple of years, and so it's definitely been a hot topic. And one of the criticisms that I've heard regularly, and I completely understand, is that institutions and big banks are not going to move their business onto a chain that has ever gone down. Like, and there's different reasons why different chains have their pros and cons, and there are some issues that prop up in every chain and every ecosystem. So I definitely understand the criticism of Solana has gone down in the past, and so I don't see institutions moving all of their business onto the Solana main chain. But that doesn't take away from the fact they've made huge strides in actual performance innovation. And there's a reason that Solana is such a hot chain and there is so much attention and volume happening there. And so to be able to take that tech stack, to take some of the innovation that they've pioneered in this space and be able to create a private chain using that stack, that opens up an entire new avenue of business and potential growth and even more innovation within that tech stack from more established companies and engineers that are now willing to work with this on a private, in a private environment as opposed to like the public main chain. That's really, really exciting. Is there anything that you're excited about? Is there any other like ecosystems that we're going to be supporting or other things that you wanted to talk about within that field? I know there was, I think, one other ecosystem that we've been talking about onboarding for a while, which is kind of an OG name in the space, and I haven't heard about it for almost 2 or 3 years. And I've been seeing and I've been hearing a resurgence. So yeah, I'm gonna let you drop a little more alpha here.
Yeah. We're very excited to be working with the Polkadot Foundation to support the launch of parachains and our no-code deployer for Asphere. One of the most reliable and, yeah, as you said, OG, chains, and they're actually, considering these roll-ups as well. So they do fit under the RAS moniker, at least the last I've heard for terminology. But super excited to support their stack and build their community on that side. And that's something that, is our focus. As a scaling solution provider, is these different stacks that we're specifically positioned to support and bring to builders too, whether it's SPEs and permission chains with Solana, or parachains with Polkadot, or one of our other big focuses on that I'm super bullish and excited on is bringing builders over from the EVM side to Bitcoin, and what we're doing with Bitcoin protocols and what we're calling BSI, or Bitcoin Secured Infra. So taking all our knowledge and success with supporting and helping builders and providing tools and infrastructure templates over to different Bitcoin protocols and making it simpler for people to launch. So that's been great to see the interest there as a vertical and BTC5 overall.
Dude, I love that transition. That was actually going to be my next question. I mean, that's also been a very hot topic over the last year, is building on Bitcoin. I'll be honest, I kind of faded the first few rounds of building on Bitcoin. So, non-fungibles, we had like ordinals, and then we had runes, we had BRC20s. There have been different ways that people have tried to build on top of Bitcoin and add a little bit more, unique flavor to Bitcoin, which has been kind of boring for most of its history, which is also kind of one of its pros, is that it's should be boring and it should be a little bit more stable for what it does. And then, we've added more programmability in all of these other chains. That was kind of the reason that Ethereum really started, was to try to make blockchain more programmable. And now there's a huge interest in kind of coming back home to Bitcoin, whether it's protocols like Babylon that are using Bitcoin to secure other proof of stake chains, or it's platforms like Stacks, like L2s on Bitcoin, that allow people to build full applications while still staying very close to Bitcoin and settling on Bitcoin. Can you talk about some of our partners that you're working with within this BSI scope, and like what kind of things will people be able to do on which ecosystems, and like what all does this entail? Because BSI, it's a new term, it's like a new category that we've kind of, given a name, but I would really love to learn a little bit more about what all that entails.
Yeah, it is broad for a reason, in that we support many like customizations that is needed by the different existing Bitcoin protocols. So, you mentioned like Babylon, for example. We worked closely in creating an infrastructure template to enable the easy launch of what they term BSNs, or Bitcoin secured networks, so that gain the benefits of integrating with Babylon and their Bitcoin secured staking layer, security layer. So one great, fantastic project that I'm super excited about, that we've worked closely with, actually, that falls under using one of these BSN templates that we've built, as TAC. So super innovative approach, and interesting if you're a tech stack person. Very interesting tech stack, and that it's
Yeah.
a cause. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like a lot of people don't know that TAC has anything to do with Bitcoin. It's really
Yeah,
like
yeah, because
EVM on Telegram.
their value proposition is great. EVM for
Yeah,
the TON ecosystem. Bring EVM dApps to
a
TON
billion
and use it for,
users.
like, that
Yeah,
is a no-brainer. Like, and they should be leading with
yeah.
that. And we shouldn't you shouldn't know about the tech stack, because that's the things that we have to worry
I mean,
about.
it means they're doing a good job. Like, people
Yeah,
really shouldn't be
yeah.
worried about
And,
what's behind it.
And similar with Babylon, honestly, like, it's very clear value proposition and messaging, like Bitcoin staking. Like, okay, I understand that secure proof of stake chains. Like, that's great. I get it in 2 seconds. Similar for TAC, and bringing all the EVM dApps and tap into that large TON and Telegram user base is great. But kind of to bring it back, there is a Bitcoin flavor to what they're doing from the security side, which is very unique. And so they're a Cosmos SDK chain that's actually with the latest Cosmos EVM module. So that's where the EVM compatibility comes in, and the enablement, the bridge with the TON ecosystem. But there's also that we're integrating it with Babylon and their staking protocol. So a very different stack and approach for what they're doing. A fantastic team, exciting traction. I know mainnet is well on its way to coming to fruition soon. So yeah, if you haven't heard of that project, definitely keep an eye on
Dude, I'm gonna try to get Marco on one of these episodes soon. Maybe we'll do it
it.
closer to
Yeah.
he's a character. I love the way he speaks. He's spoken at one of our events in the past. I always run into him at events, and he's got a huge personality. He's a really, really smart dude. I know he's passionate about Bitcoin. And definitely like working very, very hard on tech and the ecosystem and really getting it out there. Which, yeah, I'm impressed by their whole team. I've only had a few interactions with them, but they've always been great. And I'm excited to see that come to fruition too.
100%. Yeah, and some other protocols, Bitcoin protocols we're in talks with on whether it's tapping into the EVM builder community and enabling EVM compatibility, or we run a lot of validators for different networks, so supporting different Bitcoin projects from a pure infra standpoint is how we're interacting. But yeah, I think kind of it will evolve to continuing the specific tailored infra needs for Bitcoin, the same way that we've developed the no-code deployer for more EVM or other VM projects. I think we'll see some similar tools on the horizon for Bitcoin builders.
Oh, that's going to be exciting. It's definitely an ecosystem that I've wanted to mess around with a little bit more. I think you know this about me, and I think I talked about this on other episodes in the past as well, is I'm not a software engineer by trade, and so I do a lot of no code, low code stuff. And so this no code deployer definitely is something that piques my interest, and being able to build within the Bitcoin ecosystem, whether it's on Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2 or something else within the Bitcoin sphere. It's definitely harder for people that don't have a ton of development experience and engineering experience, or like really just get their hands dirty. So when we see more templates and then easier ways to really build in the Bitcoin ecosystem, I think we're going to see the floodgates kind of open, and more people that have been experimenting in other ecosystems that have just kind of been waiting for the ability to build on Bitcoin more start coming back and get more developer adoption within the Bitcoin ecosystem, which is really exciting. Especially with the invention of all these AI coding tools that have really been helping like speed things along. To start adding some templates and some frameworks for people to start building in the Bitcoin ecosystem, I think is going to be really, really exciting.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
All right, cool, man. So we're coming close to time. I think we're already at almost 40 minutes for this episode. So as we wrap it up, I really want to just get your thoughts. And normally we talk about the specific product or ecosystem that the guest is in. You kind of work in a very broad area. So you work with a ton of different ecosystems, ton of partners, and across multiple products. So the last section is normally a future vision for the ecosystem you're in, or wider in the Web3 space. But just curious, in your field, in your realm, where do you see this industry heading in the next 5 to 10 years? Whether you see like more niche rollups being built out, whether you see kind of more connections between them, and maybe a narrower field of rollups and side chains and app chains. Like, how do you see the movement in the rollup space coming in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think in the immediate future, interop will continue to be a focus, and shared liquidity and those types of things. We've seen teams build their verticals, but now they want connection and they want shared, liquidity and, user bases and a more seamless overall experience for not only the applications, but therefore the end users. I do think we'll still see app chains and whether it's a L1 or a roll up that has scaled and wants their own benefits and control. I think we'll continue to see that with business use cases. I think there'll just be more elegant ways that everything starts to come together, whether it's shared security, whether it's shared liquidity, on things that have been around but just get applied to where users, where builders, where money currently is, which usually drives focus, as well as whatever the flavor narrative, which keeps things fun and spicy in the Web3 world. As we all know, things can shift dramatically in the next 6 months, so I won't be foolish enough to think I can predict the future there. But I do know kind of what excites me on that side. And yeah, I think building in Bitcoin is one thing that I'm super excited about, and real world use cases of BTCFi on that end. I think we're going to continue to see innovations and emergence of large DeFi applications and kind of ecosystems. One of which I'm, of course, most bullish on is Neura, and sustainable yields and rewards for participants at every layer of the stack. But that's for another podcast episode down the way, I'm sure. And then, yeah, as you mentioned too, like AI, different AI projects and innovations when decentralized resources come into play, and how that pairs with DePIN, like Anchor, for what we all envision, a more ownership, I own as the creator of value and distributed systems, and, continuing to cut out those middlemen in a true fashion, through all while gaining all the efficiencies and automations and fun things that we're able to now do and speed things up with AI. Yeah, looking to see what's kind of next on all those fronts.
All right. So what I heard was keep stacking sats because that's where it's at. Keep using AI to build. And before we hop off, now that you brought it up, I would love to just for like a quick 30 seconds. I know you've played a very big role in the inception of Neura and then kind of the progress of what's been going on in that project. So what can you tell us about how you're using your skill set and your experience and really helping push this project along? Because this has been, a partnership that's been a long time coming. And it's something that I and a lot of our team are genuinely really excited to get out there. And I know we still have like a lot we're keeping under wraps. But just, yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on your experience working on it, and how you feel about it. What excites you the most in the Neuraverse?
Yeah, at the highest level, I couldn't be more excited, honestly, and truly. And I can't wait to share what we've been, hard at work at. But I think it's really a culmination of taking all the things we have done and do best at Anchor Asphere from our infrastructure, which Neura will run on top of, and is a partner of with Anchor Asphere, as well as our industry partners as a place to highlight them as well as their user bases and gain their benefits by the unique DeFi flywheel and incentives that we're creating, that's very closely tied to the partnership with Anchor Asphere on that end. I don't want to give too much details away on that, but I think it's, we support 80 plus main networks. We've launched L1s, enterprise institutional clients. We've helped teams go to market, support all the applications, and now it's really time for us to showcase our existing technologies on staking services, REST services, and having kind of a home and say, hey, this is what we built with the tools and products that we do have. Anchor Asphere can do that for ecosystems as well. But Neura is, I'll say a very unique and novel way to have long-term sustainable yields and incentives for the next wave of DeFi and growth. And yeah, cut that for the next episode for the details of how that's.
We'll leave it. Yeah. No, I've definitely got some other core contributors I'm lining up for the next episode to do a real deep dive into Neura. Hopefully, we can talk a little bit more openly about everything Neura by then. But this is perfect. I got a little short. I'm going to extract that. We're going to blast the heck out of it. We're going to promote this episode, and people are going to think you're talking all about Neura. But dude, honestly, man, thank you so much. This has been a great episode. I love these like organic conversations. I know I might have thrown you a curveball here and there, so I appreciate you being a good sport and playing along. But yeah, thank you so much, man. Is there anything that you want to close this call out on? Let people know where to find you, where they can find more information about our scaling services, and then where they can actually follow you on socials and keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Just head to anchor.com. You'll find the latest on our scaling solutions there and all of our other great products. And then, yeah, follow me on Twitter at tsloantech _tech. And TG as well on the Anchor and Neura channels. I'm in there with the squad, so always happy to chop it up.
Dude, awesome. Again, man, thank you so much for being here. Really happy to have you and looking forward to getting this episode out as quickly as possible so people can pick up on some of that alpha that you dropped, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate it, Feroz. Talk soon, my man.
All right, later.
Bye.